Hi, my name is Paul, and welcome to my Physics 2212 Lab 2, where we will be further investigating charge tapes. In this report, there will be a brief introduction discussing the purpose of the report, a review of the experiment from the previous lab and the data that was found, then a glow script model will be created to treat the tape as a body of charges rather than a point charge. Finally, we will contrast the charge of the point charge model and the system of charges model for the tape. We will be treating the tape as a body of charges evenly distributed and computing the net charge using a computer model. We will see that when treating the tape like this, that the charge of the tape is larger than if we treated all of the charge in the tape to be at a single point charge. We are applying Coulomb's and Newton's laws for this experiment. Recall from Lab 1 that we made two U-tapes by separating two neutral pieces of tape to induce a charge on each piece of tape. Then the sign of each piece of tape was found by testing their reactions with objects of known charge. In Lab 1, we found that both pieces of tape were positively charged and repelled each other. Both pieces of tape were then set over each other some distance of 0.04 meters, and the top tape began to levitate over the bottom tape. The charges of the tapes could then be determined by equaling the gravitational force and the electric force and solve for the charge. We began by measuring the distance apart of the two pieces of tape, which was 0.04 meters. We also knew that the mass of the top piece of tape was 0.0002 kilograms, and so it was of known length and density. Then we calculated the gravitational force, which was 1.96 times 10 to the negative 3 newtons. This would be equal to the electric force in magnitude, so we equated the two and isolated for the charge of the top tape. We found that the charge of both pieces of tape was 1.9 times 10 to the power of negative 8 coulombs. Note that in this experiment, we were treating the piece of tape to have all of the charge isolated to one point in the center of the piece of tape. We created a glow script model that treats each piece of tape as a series of 10 sections of equal charge. This electric field from each lower tape section on each upper tape section, and then multiplied it by the charge of a section of the upper tape to determine the force acting on it. Then, the loop calculates the net electric force. We know that this should be equal to the gravitational force, so we can alter the value of Q until the magnitude of the forces are close. We settled on a charge of 3.394 times 10 to the power of negative 8 coulombs as the correct charge, which is larger than the charge when we treated it as a point charge. We know that the model where the tape is treated as a line of charge has greater charge than when it is treated as a point charge. But why? It is because there are x components of many of the forces, which means that the charge of each piece of tape must be greater to have the same effect in the y direction as the gravitational force. The line of charge is probably more accurate since the charge of force is distributed along the tape and not actually isolated to the center of the piece of tape. Thank you for listening.